Hello, dear followers of our channel. Welcome once again. Here we share with you the most impactful and little-known stories about your favorite celebrities. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications to be the first to know about our updates. Today, I will tell you about a recent and profound revelation by the Turkish actor Can Yaman, which has left everyone shocked. With a broken voice and lowering his gaze, Can spoke about the most painful moment in his relationship with Demet. It wasn't a betrayal or a fierce fight, but a cold and cutting silence that slid between them like ice water over an open wound. When he said, "Demet didn't say anything to me," he was referring to that silence that broke his soul. Something cracked in his world. We all know that sometimes we wait more for a word, even if it hurts, than for the absolute void. This silence, Can explained in a podcast, was a mute decision. There were no explanations, no goodbyes, no visible confrontations. Everything simply disappeared. He sought answers, words, a conscious farewell, but found nothing. He wanted to shout into the microphone that void, not an eternal silence, but the deepest pain of indifference. "Sometimes you want to scream, not silence," he confessed. And those words stayed etched in the hearts of those who listened. The publication of these statements exploded on the internet. Fans and critics felt they were witnessing an intimate and naked moment, something uncommon among public figures. Many applauded his courage. Others criticized him, but no one could look away from that emotional echo. Demet, on the other hand, kept absolute silence. Her name was mentioned over and over, but she left no clues on social media or in her close circle. Her silence after such an accusation was her way of responding. And although Can hinted that silence hurt him, she showed strength by maintaining it. The battle between them had no insults but a burning internal fire. In this emotional triangle, Sarah Bluma, a key figure, could not stay silent. Upon learning of this, with irony and pain, she said, "You will never be silent like that with me." A phrase that demanded not only presence but confrontation. It was a clear message. Her relationship with Can does not allow unjustified silences. It demands clear signals. That further fueled the flames. The audience was divided. Those who supported Can saw him as a victim of emotional abandonment. Those backing Demet's silence argued that not every gesture needs explanation. The podcast went viral, flooding platforms with fragments of the phrase that broke the silence. "That silence broke my heart." This sparked deep debates. Sarah's followers also took sides. Some said this explained her temperament and need for confrontation, while others highlighted that she, unlike Demet, isn't afraid to express her opinion. Sarah's sarcastic phrase about Can's silence sounded like a warning. Not everyone has the right to be silent when they hurt, and under that motto, her stance grew stronger. The podcast channel doubled its subscribers. Many wanted to hear the full interview, not just for the revelations, but for the genuine emotions. There were long pauses, held breaths, a deep desire to say what was unsaid. Because when inner silence is exposed in front of the microphone, it loses its power. And that was exactly what Can sought. Meanwhile, on social networks, memes and montages circulated with the phrase from the audio, "Want to scream? Here it is," accompanied by images of Can with a broken moon. Other users shared stories calling their exes symbols of absence. Fan pages exploded with debates. Who is right in this emotional conflict? A psychological blog highlighted the actor's honesty, pointing out that many people go through breakups without words, understanding that silence hurts more than insults. The podcast became a collective catharsis session because talking about invisible pain liberates. And when a famous person does it, it helps others not to feel alone. Demet never responded. For many, that confirmed her silence was a strategy or perhaps paralyzing sadness. But her decision not to speak kept communicating. And although Can bravely showed the void she left, she herself created it with her lack of communication. Some close to them say Can asked Demet to call him to explain before the show. He just wanted to understand, but there was no reconciliation. Her response was silence, the worst phrase for him. She didn't want to tell me. That marked the crack between them. By then, many shows dedicated hours to ethical debates. Is it necessary to talk about everything? Is showing pain exploitation? Some defended radical honesty, others criticized public dramatization. But the truth is that this intense message already had a life of its own. The next day, Sarah posted an ironic quote with an emoji. "Silence isn't always noble. She didn't mention names, but understood everything. In her emotional world, there is no place for silence that escapes, that leaves without explanations. That phrase was another line in a discourse demanding clarity. While the next episodes of the podcast awaited their audience, Sarah and Jan faced a new test. Will verbal confrontation heal the wounds or only spark a new flame? Demet'S silence was an echo. Sarah's reaction, a fire, and Jan in the middle of both became both refuge and storm. In the following days, Jan avoided interviews, taking refuge in his work. But his intense emotions showed in his performances, which gained weight and depth. Sarah, for her part, showed a more confident profile on social media, with meditative photos and phrases about conscious presence. "I don't expect you to understand me. I expect you to avoid me," she wrote. Her anger was reflected in that message. Those who remain silent without reason also leave a mark, but the inverse.